The Special Education Policy of Jamaica 2017 is a document which outlines the framework for special education in Jamaica. It emphasizes inclusion and the right of all children to an appropriate education, regardless of their special needs. The key aspects included in this document are the definition of special education, which is clearly defined as specially defined instruction at no cost to the parents to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability, as mentioned in section 2.2 of the policy. It encompasses various services like individualized education programs, IEPs, related services such as speech therapy, occupational therapy, and supplementary aids and services. The guiding principles of this document are grounded in several core principles, including inclusion, which is prioritizing the education of students with special needs in mainstream classrooms alongside their peers whenever possible, mentioned in section 4.1. Child-centered approach, focusing on individual needs and strengths of each child in the development and delivery of educational services, mentioned in section 4.2. Equity and accessibility, which ensures equal opportunities and access to quality education for all children with special needs, as mentioned in 4.3, and collaboration among parents, educators, professionals, and other stakeholders in the provision of special education services mentioned in section 4.4 of the policy. Another key aspect is the individualized education programs, the IEPs. The policy mandates the development of IEPs for each student with special needs. These plans outline the child's learning goals, required accommodations, and support services, as noted in section 5.2. The IEP process involves assessment, planning, implementation, and review. Assessment and identification is another key aspect. The policy emphasizes the importance of early identification and assessment of children with special needs to ensure timely intervention, mentioned in section 5.1. It outlines a process for screening, referral, and comprehensive assessment. Teacher training and professional development remain another major factor. The policy recognizes the need for qualified special education teachers and emphasizes the importance of ongoing professional development for all educators to effectively meet the needs of students with special needs, as referenced in section 6.1. And last but not least, parental involvement. The policy stresses the crucial role of parents in the special education process. It promotes active parental participation in IEP development, decision-making, and ongoing communication with schools, as referenced in section 7. Funding and resources are one of the major aspects. From the government, the policy acknowledges the need for adequate funding and resources to support the effective implementation of special education programs, as referenced in section 8. The Jamaican Education Act 1980 and its amendments is a document in comparison to the Special Education Policy. The actual Jamaican Education Act and its amendments provide the legal foundation for education in Jamaica, including special education. The summary document highlights the Act as amended and provides a legal basis for the special education policy. It outlines the rights of children with special needs, access to and the responsibilities of the Ministry of Education in providing appropriate services. It addresses areas such as compulsory education, which is the range for compulsory education in Jamaica, the responsibilities of the Ministry of Education, and the role in overseeing and regulating special education services, the rights of children with special needs, and the legal entitlements of students with disabilities to receive appropriate educational services. And finally, establishment of the special education institutions, which are the legal framework for establishing and operating special needs schools and units. It's important to note that the Special Education Policy 2017 works in conjunction with the Education Act, providing a more detailed framework for implementing special education services within the broader legal context. The policy clarifies and expands upon the general provisions of the Act related to special education. Therefore, both documents are crucial for understanding the legal and the policy framework for special education in Jamaica. The historical and current perspective on the special education policy in Jamaica is that many students with disabilities were previously denied access to public education, but now they all have the right to a free and appropriate education. The current approach to special education prioritizes individualized education plans that address each child's unique needs, as opposed to the previous one-size-fits-all approach. An example of a child named Hannah will be given later to emphasize some of the challenges which exist. An article from Radio Jamaica News Online, where educators call for policies to address the challenges of children with special needs. And another article from gis.gov.dm featured children with disabilities who want greater inclusion and acceptance. For instance, in 1974, the government of Jamaica joined and partnered with institutions, and today the schools of special education, a network of 28 schools island-wide, are jointly operated with the Ministry of Education. As mentioned in Work and Jam, an article which highlights special education schools and especially the School of Hope, which is one of the facilities and institutions mentioned.
Jamaica's special education policy aims to ensure that all students with disabilities have access to appropriate education and support. I'll just highlight some of the strengths of the policy, and the first one will be free tuition. This allows students to attend school without having to pay the regular quoted school fees at the start of the school year. Secondly, the policy encourages early detection and assessment of children with special needs through screening and comprehensive evaluations, resulting in timely intervention and support. The policy recognizes strengths. It focuses on each student's unique strengths and abilities. Therefore, students feel more motivated and proud, which can lead to improved academic performances. We have seen that special needs students with disabilities gain skills and knowledge in reading, mathematics, and even critical thinking. This policy encourages inclusion by incorporating children with special needs into the regular classrooms alongside their peers and providing the necessary support systems. We also have teachers who have received adequate training, and they provide support systems to students with a variety of learning needs. Special needs students gain independence through self-control, communication, and problem-solving skills. Finally, we have family involvement. Parents and guardians are encouraged to actively participate in their child's education, including decisions regarding special education needs. While the special education policy has been beneficial to many, there are some weaknesses that were identified while reviewing the Jamaican special education policy. Firstly, we would like to make mention of the difficulties in managing students' behaviors with mental health issues. Secondly, we would like to place a little focus on the challenges that educators face when motivating students with disabilities. Accessibility remains a major issue for disabled children in Jamaica. Many schools lack the necessary infrastructure, such as accessible restrooms and suitable classroom settings, to accommodate students with physical disabilities. Another challenge that stands out is insufficient funding by government. With limited access to necessary resources, including specialized staff and equipment, which may be due to budgetary constraints. Teacher capacity. Most teachers lack adequate training to effectively address the diverse needs of students with disabilities. which may result in difficulties in adapting curriculum and instructions to individual needs. Additionally, with limited awareness among schools and teachers, they may lack knowledge to identify and support students with special needs. For example, we have a case scenario with a student named Hannah who has autism. That story will be shared later on in the video by Samika. That student was tested and found to be at the lower end of the spectrum. And with this information, along with financial restraints, her parents decided to enroll her in a community primary school. Another weakness of this policy will be early identification and assessment issues. With delays in identifying students with special needs can hinder timely intervention. Also, there's over identification and under identification, which can lead to misdiagnosis or failure to identify students with disabilities, and this can also lead to inappropriate placement or missed opportunities for support. So we need to, I think that special consideration should be given to the special education policy in Jamaica in order for us to see greater success. Now I hand you over to Samika, who will be providing you with additional information on the special education policy in Jamaica.
Is the policy effective? The special education policy in Jamaica has made some progress in promoting inclusive education. However, challenges remain that highlight its limitations and ineffectiveness in fully addressing the needs of students with special needs. Despite efforts by the Ministry of Education to create policies and plans for implementation, the data shows a gap in actual outcomes. In Jamaica, there are approximately 90,053 students with special needs across all education levels. Yet, only 2,805, 3%, are enrolled in special schools. This means that 97% are either included in regular education or not enrolled at all. While the primary 95% and secondary 91% enrollment rates are high, this only reflects the attendance, not actual learning. In many cases, students with special needs are integrated into regular classrooms but lack the resources and support to succeed. Here are two more reasons that reflect on how the policy affects school in general and, in particular, teaching and learning. 1. Teacher training and shortage. According to the University of the West Indies Baseline Survey, Teacher Training, the ministry reports that 425 teachers are employed in the field of special education, but only 72% of them are trained. The need for more trained teachers is critical. To meet the needs of students with special needs in regular schools, Jamaica would need an additional 2,857 trained special education teachers. This shortage, compounded by the migration of trained teachers seeking better conditions, significantly impacts the quality of education these students receive. And 2. Differentiated instruction and resources. Teachers are expected to differentiate instruction to meet the diverse needs of students with special needs. However, many schools lack the resources such as an assistive technology unit, learning aids, and support staff to effectively cater to these students. Despite the policy encouraging inclusion, most regular schools are not equipped to provide the specialized support that the students with special needs require. Let me share a case example with you, the struggles of Hannah. Consider the case of Hannah, a 10-year-old child with autism. Hannah has been enrolled in a mainstream primary school in Jamaica as per the special education policy. While her inclusion in the regular classroom was intended to promote integration, she struggles significantly. Her teacher is experienced but untrained in special needs education, and the large class size makes individualization in attention difficult. Hannah's classmates do not understand her behavior, and she often feels isolated. The school has a single special needs teacher who is overwhelmed by his workload and cannot provide Hannah with the support she needs. The lack of resources, such as assistive technologies and a sensory room, intensifies her struggles. Hannah's situation is not unique. The policy's intention of inclusive education does not align with the reality of large class sizes, insufficient teacher training, and lack of support systems. As a result, Hannah's academic performance and emotional well being have deteriorated, and her parents are forced to consider transferring her to a private school, an option that is financially burdensome and disruptive to her social environment. In conclusion, while the special education policy in Jamaica advocates for inclusive education, it falls short in practice. The gaps in teacher training, the shortage of trained special needs educators, the lack of resources, and the challenges of large class sizes make it difficult for students like Hannah to thrive in regular education systems. Without significant reforms in teacher training, resource allocation, and school infrastructure, the policy will continue to be ineffective in fully supporting students with special needs. Educators have called for these issues to be addressed and for changes to ensure that inclusion is truly meaningful and effective for all students. This is according to Radio Jamaica 2025.
The special education policy of Jamaica has made quite an impact on the education system in Jamaica and on Jamaicans. Though there are still obstacles to overcome, the effect of special education policy on the Jamaican school system and its people have been notable in many areas. The Jamaican government has made strides to improve inclusive education through the Jamaican National Policy for Persons with Disabilities of 2000 and the special education policy that was introduced to promote inclusion and accessibility in schools. Here are some of the main impacts. 1. Increased access to education for students with disabilities. 2. The promotion of inclusive education. 3. Teacher training and professional development. 4. The improvement of infrastructure. 5. The legal and policy framework. 6. The awareness and advocacy of special education, and also technological tools that support reflective practice in special education. This includes use of e-portfolios to enable educators to visually track a student's progress over time, making it easier to identify trends and areas for improvement. Despite the special education policy having made great strides and having a deep impact in Jamaica, there is always room for improvement. Here are a few suggestions to address and mitigate the challenges within special education for each of the following areas. Area 1. Increased access to education for students with disabilities. The further expansion of specialized programs can increase the capacity of schools to serve a broader range of disabilities by integrating technology, providing additional therapeutic services, and increasing community partnerships. In addition to this, there could be tailored resource allocation, where more resources to schools with a high concentration of students with disabilities to ensure they have the appropriate tools, materials, and trained staff to meet students' unique needs. Area 2. The promotion of inclusive education. A stronger community and parental engagement would all but ensure the success of inclusive education, which often depends on how much parents and communities buy into the concept. The ongoing evaluation and feedback mechanism is quite necessary because the feedback from students, parents, teachers, and school administrators should be actively sought and used to refine inclusive practices. By providing continuous support for students and teachers, this could include regularly scheduled resource room support or having a system of peer tutoring in place. Area 3. Teacher training and professional development. Mentorship programs to include pairing experienced teachers with less experienced special educators to help spread knowledge about the best practices and create a community of support for educators. Refresher courses and support networks for ongoing training or professional development programs can ensure teachers remain informed about the latest research and the tools in special education. Area 4. The improvement in infrastructure. Comprehensive accessibility audits should be conducted regularly to ensure all buildings are fully accessible, even in schools that may not currently have a large population of students with disabilities. In addition to this, innovative learning spaces should be included. Beyond physical accessibility, schools should consider the design of classrooms and the learning environment. For example, sensory-friendly spaces which can be included to help students with sensory processing issues. And finally, for this, universal design for learning, where we implement UDL principles in the infrastructure design, ensuring that physical and digital resources are accessible for students. And finally, Area 5, the awareness and advocacy. Campaigns for public awareness can include ongoing national and local awareness campaigns to challenge societal stigmas around disabilities, which can improve public understanding and create more inclusive attitudes towards individuals with disabilities. This can be further ensured by advocacy training for parents and students, which will empower them to take action in ensuring that their children and the learning of the students themselves and their educational needs are met. Addition to this, schools and community partnerships with local advocacy groups, NGOs and governmental organizations which can provide and assist students with disabilities with a broader support network and resources. In summary, continuing efforts to improve special education for students with disabilities requires a multifaceted approach by enhancing teacher training, improving infrastructure, ensuring a robust legal framework, and focusing on awareness. The system can become more inclusive and supportive for all students, regardless of their needs. These efforts need to be systematic, continuous, and collaborative to be sustainable and impactful.